So next up, we have our panel, which is the last of the morning session, and we have a fantastic crew of people. Mr. Kelly, Tadhg Kelly coming on up. We've got Brice from Antihero. We've got Saikala from a growth marketing consultant. Linam from Tilting Point. Warren from Upptic. And Cevdet from KashKick. So come on up, folks. And I'll hand over to the very, very capable Mr. Kelly.
Hello. Hello. Okay, so today we have a wonderful panel where we're talking about UA opportunities, but particularly we're talking about UA when it applies to smaller and middle-sized developers and how they may be able to compete or indeed find awareness or even opportunity within a market that's actually super crowded by very, very large, big hitters, various names who you know. We have a wonderful panel that we're going to go through and talk about a variety of these things with. One of them is Warren Woodward. There he is over there. He's the co-founder at Upptic. Warren has over a decade of experience leading user acquisition divisions, previously game publishers including Nexon and Wargaming, and he's the founder and chief growth officer at Upptic. We have Saikala Sultanova. Hello. Sorry, I'm butchering the names. I'm sorry. Who's a growth marketing consultant and with over 14 years experience in mobile games and apps, driving UA and global launch strategy for studios such as Ubisoft, Product Madness, and a variety of others. We have Brice Laville St. Martin, who's the CEO and co-founder at Antihero Studios, who are backed by A16Z Speedrun. Brice worked at Supercell for more than 6 years, transitioning from a developer on Clash Royale to helping establish the marketing team at the company's headquarters in Helsinki, and he's now building Antihero with a focus on games worth sharing. We have Leah Nam, who I just met 10 seconds ago, hi, who's the general manager at Korea, Japan's Tilting Point in Korea, Japan, sorry. Leah is a seasoned business development professional with extensive experience in the game industry across the Asia-Pacific region, currently serving as general manager and has previously held senior roles at Facebook and where you were a development lead for APAC Gaming. We have Cevdet Ustun. On the end, yep, close enough? Right. We've been debating how to pronounce each other's names for the last half hour. Who's an account manager at KashKick. Cevdet is an account manager based in Cyprus. His partners with mobile game studios to scale rewarded UA campaigns that drive high-value, engaged players. All right, did I get everybody? Yep. All right. So hopefully we have about 35 minutes. We're going to go through as many questions as we can, talk about the ins and outs of what it's like for mobile devs, particularly, as I say, small and middle size, to try and find opportunity in the UA landscape. One question I did want to ask everybody to sort of start with as a kind of a level setting question is, what's your sort of take on what the landscape looks like, particularly as we're going into 2026, and where you think maybe opportunities may live? So Brice, I'm going to start with you.
My side, I'm quite, as a founder, right? We are building games, right? We're building content. I'm quite excited about the UA financing. I think for us, like building our game and thinking about what the next year is and the fundraising, like UA financing for me, it's like a new financial vehicle that is quite interesting. Mm-hmm. As usual, I'm also quite interested in how our target audience, which are Gen Zs, that define themselves as gamers, which I think might be quite different from many of us here. How are those consumer trends? Them as consumers, how do they discover new products, and what are they excited about? I think that's something that I'm thinking quite a bit.
Okay, cool. Warren, what's your take?
Yeah, when I think about the current state of user acquisition for games, especially for small teams, the biggest thing I think about is this is probably the largest gap I've seen between like perception and reality. So the assumptions I see teams have about what does or doesn't work in UA. Overall, it's a really great time for user acquisition right now. I've been doing this for a long time, and there's been a lot of painful periods. But a lot of I'll just say dumb money, there's been a lot of periods of like unsustainable growth for teams like pursuing M&A opportunities and things like that, or just blind spending in the early iOS scan days. A lot of that has kind of washed through. Yeah. And it's actually a really, I'd say, healthy time if you are having strong UA fundamentals, competent practitioners, have the right technology in place. If you do the work, you can actually get very strong UA outcomes right now. And it's the healthiest I've seen the ecosystem overall in some years, I would say.
Some years. Okay, Leah, how do you see it?
So first, it is really glad to hear that the other UA financing other thing is interesting. Because we've been learning for the last 15 years. So I think that this year is UA is not just the game about the scale. It's more like the precision and the accuracy. So I think that this the traffic is always there, and then is efficient growth is harder. So this is a large company that can absorb this inefficiency with capital. But the small teams that cannot. So I think for the small teams, it depends on the clear hypothesis, on the goal, and then the facet test, and then also have to iterate all these other things fastly. So I think that's the important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Saikala, what's your view?
What's my view? I think 26 is going to be exciting because right now we have much better tooling, and we've been practicing it for like, let's say, 10, 15 years, so we should be smarter, right? But there are lots of new things. I'm going to say the word AI, and agentic workflows. So it will be different for smaller companies versus bigger companies. The one thing is always true that scalable UA requires funding. So it's good to hear about UA financing, and there are many other things. There's factoral and other things as well. But at the same time, it would be what smaller companies can do now. They can be much smarter, measure things, and use automatic tooling. And there's lots of things for experimentation. Whether it's going to be scalable, that's a big question. And that's
right.
Things to see. For big organizations, I think there's a lot of maybe inefficiencies that bigger companies would be able to bring internally with processes, with smarter budget allocation, better building creatives, I don't know, measuring and all of these kind of things. So I think it's going to be pivotal for both.
Right, interesting. How about you, Gifta?
A little bit more focused experience on my end because I've been in the rewarded UA side of things. And, it's been like the growing thing in the past couple of years. And I think it provides a more focused environment for the publishers to try out, test their app, increase their, initial UA, especially for smaller companies. It's a little bit more, relatively more expensive, might be a source, but then it helps you with the kickstart a little bit better, in my experience, obviously. And it's from my end, and I've been doing UA for 6 years in different fields. It's been a different experience that I think could be leveraged to a further extent, and kind of helping with that whole big UA mix significantly.
Yeah. Just going to we're going to have to ask the AI question, so let's get it out of the way. Obviously, particularly in UA at the moment, there's a big trend toward like mass creative deployment, right? So particularly with the ability to very easily and quickly generate a ton of different creative. The numbers that I read just yesterday, it's like some studios are now deploying like 2,500 creatives every quarter to sort of see what works and stuff like that, which is obviously something that is very easier for larger studios to kind of contemplate doing with a lot of spend. But for smaller and mid-sized studios, that's extremely daunting. What's your kind of take on that sort of sloppy strategy, if you like? And what's your kind of advice to a smaller developer in that kind of landscape, like how to try and compete? I'm going to go to Saikala because you brought up AI first.
Well, 25,000 creatives, I think it's a lie, because more creatives requires more ad spend. So I think, that's questionable. Probably they made that many, but not that many went live with the ad spend. I think to kind of iterate to what I said earlier, there's a lot more possibilities to do experimentations. So the AI tools are not perfect. None of them are. And you would make some part of the creative with another part of the creative, and then you need a human to merge it all together to make sure it's edited right. And then you need to apply a naming convention to put it through the ads and then see what works. And then you need to measure the hook rate and something at the end, and like all of these things. So I think for smaller and medium developers, the experimentations and measurements are a lot more possible and cheaper here right now. And it just requires time, because you need to try so many different AI tools and talk to people and see which ones are actually better, or none of them are perfect, but which ones are less worse, let's say, and do that. But again, with more creatives, more ad spend, which means you need to be to have controlled spend. And then also, one of the things that smaller developers need to kind of understand that what is the purpose of testing and bringing these new users to your game or app or whatever it may be? Is it for testing the product? Is it to show potential investors what you can bring with this product? Because none of that is going to be massive scalable anyway. So I think that is very important as well.
Okay. Brice, since you're working on the development side more, how's your experience? What are you sort of seeing?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's an interesting question. We use AI all over, right? But what we see, for our target audience, which are Gen Zs, and what we see is that in terms of creatives, the players don't want to see AI. That's not something they support. This is not something they are behind. So we've been using it on the art side, for example, in prototyping. We went very fast on that. We could do, like a character in 12 minutes from concept to all of this. But then when it comes to actually putting in the game, like, it's a big no-no. And we know that audience is very perceptive, even if it's an image on Instagram or something. And that's not something we want to do. We want to use AI in targeting, we want to use AI in coding, but not in terms of creatives. And again, this is very much for our audience, which might be different from others. This is not something we're going to do.
I see. Okay. Leah, how's your experience been with it?
Actually, right now, I'm not a big fan of this AI thing.
Mm-hmm.
So even at this time, I got a lot of the meeting requests from the company that they're saying that they are doing something AI creative thing. But actually, what I think is that every this developer expected to lower this production cost using AI, but actually it's not. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the media, like the Meta or the Google, all the sales team only keep saying that you should test it more creative. So everyone just think that the making the massive the creative is important to optimize. But what I've been seeing the Meta is that even only one or the creative with a clear message, sometimes it's working. So I think what the developer really need to understand is that. They should know their game, and then they should know which kind of message they should deliver. Then with that, if they need to use AI for that, then it might be helpful. But for now, I'm not sure.
Okay, cool. Warren, are you seeing something similar?
So I think a couple of the main things I'm thinking about were already touched on by Saikala and Brice. The blocker, the choke point right now is not amount of ads. I think that's not something our industry is suffering from, or it just can't get enough ads. It's like breadth of quality ideas is the choke point. And similar to what you're saying, Brice, like we're finding in testing, we'll always be testing AI ads as part of the mix, but there's not breakthroughs right now. We are still, the state of things today will not be the state of things in the future with AI, but state of things today, we are still in a bit of probably the last phase of the uncanny valley of, especially for a more savvy, like younger gaming audience, they can smell it, they can sense it. So where we see breakthroughs is breadth of ideas that is very human feeling content, not just UGC, but UGC that feels very homemade, that feels like people that have actually known and used the product, mixed with some sort of like clickbait attention getting thing in the first few seconds. But definitely we're almost seeing a counter narrative to AI ads as far as what's actually getting breakthrough performance currently.
Right, okay. Like, do you have a good example in mind?
A concept that worked recently for us, we had one of our creative team members literally like get in the shower with their cell phone crying for the first few seconds and then talk about the strategy that led them to that moment in the follow-up. So, some clickbait, something weird, and then like, oh, this is the moment in the game that brought me to this point, and showing some strategy.
Fair enough. Kevin, how are you, particularly on the UA as regards rewarded side, how do you sort of see this kind of stuff applying?
The creatives, yeah. Well, for us, so we have two parts. So we work with advertisers that leverage the users from in our platform, which is a highly intentional user base. And in that case, I totally agree with you. No clickbaits go well, and especially with highly intentional users, but they know they're already going to play some games. They just want to see what the game looks like. Yeah. And having that kind of a variety of creatives in there, clickbait, it doesn't really work. But advertising our platform, KashKick, it's a different story. And then again, I agree, the clickbaits, well, it works a little bit depending on the platform. But then again, people want to actually see what's going on, like what is it, and before they start engaging with it. Yeah. And that's what we've been seeing so far. That's why, we do leverage AI in different fields, as you have mentioned, like personalization, targeting, other stuff. Creative, I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think though? I mean, we see a lot with UA that it sort of goes through movements of like certain types of creative, certain styles. So, for example, last year I remember I used to see a ton of ads that were like you kind of supposed like in gameplay kind of segments, many of which were fake or not actually in the game properly, or kind of were, or that sort of stuff. And that was a sort of a fashion that sort of passed through for a while. And then you would see, say, for example, lots of like micro celebrities or something like that sort of being involved and trying to like help push a game. Or you'd see a lot of kind of real world sort of, I'm in the shower because I'm weeping because of my game sort of stuff. Do you sort of think that a lot of this kind of AI content that we're currently sort of seeing a surge on similarly will actually expire as a kind of a tactic relatively quickly? Or do you think that there's a lot more to it substantially?
Well, yeah. So I think it's a generational thing, as you have mentioned previously, and yeah, it might go away, it might not go away. I don't know for sure right now.
Right.
I don't know what the next generation is going to bring either. But I don't feel like it's gonna stick around much.
Yeah.
Having though, coming back to it, and having the ability to be able to create like 2,500,000, you say.
2,500.
25,000
is
let's
much
say.
the same though, right?
I mean, it takes a ton of stress off of the operational work, and then you can test it. And those kind of creators, and I've worked with a couple of them myself.
Yeah.
Though again, as you mentioned, it's impossible to test all of them. It's going to help us understand what's going to happen next. But I feel like it's going to be a trend.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I can just add on this, I think, yeah, definitely it's generational. You have to imagine, depending of generation, I would say people are more or less educated about what's marketing and what's clickbait and, and what's in there for me, beyond just this white t-shirt, and so on. I think Gen Zs and Gen Alpha, they have brands out there and other companies like Liquid Death and Gentle Monster, all of this, that propose entertainment, that propose something that make them belong, and that generation, I don't believe, a clickbait, something that, just try to, is not going to work out. That's not what we see, at least.
Totally agreed with you. Just, I don't want to exactly say that that's the exact case, but it kind of disconnects the personal connection that you might have with the creator or the brand.
Yeah.
If you have like 2,500 ads of
right.
AI-generated stuff.
I read as a related stat to that it's expected now that many creatives have only a lifespan of like 3 or 4 days, or that sort of thing, because there's such a volume that it's like they're not even expecting them to have say 2 weeks lifespan or that sort of stuff. So that does track. I mean, it's got to certainly be just like a wall of kind of crazy after a while, right? Where it's so impossible even to tell across different creatives what types are working anymore, because you just have such a mass of them that it's like, I don't know, that one kind of thing. So yeah.
To me, I just want to add again, to me, it's such imagine we are in gaming, right? We're in gaming, everybody loves it. My target audience surely loves it, and I want to propose, as a company, I want to propose something more than this clickbait, I want to propose something like a Liquid Death. I want to make them belong to a community. I want to show them the game and tell them that this is a great game, all of this. And that's what we see converts and brings a lot of very engaged players, but also people in the community. That brings more players.
It's funny you say that, because one of the best performing concepts that our team worked with for one of our partners was, I think maybe you were speaking more like metaphorically, but it was just literally the founder of the game on screen mixed with gameplay footage. Yeah, just the founder talking about why he designed the game, what he learned from working with the community. And it's just kind of that counter to AI, seeing like, oh, this is a person that designed the game. This is what they cared about. This is what he learned from his community.
I did like some such like a founder story, we call them. We spent 5K on that post, and we brought almost 1 million players to our website with 5K.
Mm-hmm.
Founder stories actually work not only for gaming, for others as well.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I've started seeing that, and
Very strong thing.
Yeah, deeper connections, like the founder talking about.
Right. Absolutely, yeah. Are you okay? Speaking of, I mean, obviously one of the things that a lot of this kind of conversation sort of brings up is that there's a real specialization of expertise that's kind of come in with like learning how to get good at UA. And one of the issues, I don't know about you guys, but I run into as I work with a lot of smaller teams, is they often just don't have like the beginning expertise or the kind of the depth of knowledge that guys like you do, right? What's your kind of recommendation for developers in terms of like how to skill up on UA efficiently so that they do become able to kind of understand the marketplace? They're able to like learn how to navigate different tools. Say, assuming they're just started, there are a bunch of coders in a room, they made a great game, they don't really know where to begin. Like, what's your kind of thoughts, particularly in the modern landscape, on how to sort of get going? Essentially, Warren, I'm going to throw that at you first.
Yeah, sure. I can start here. I think it depends on where a team is at. If you are a sole founder or a very small team, do not invest in the resources of building out like a BI team, a UA team, an in-house creative team. You can start very basic. I usually advise people start on Meta and TikTok because the UIs are the same. I think there is actually high value in learning like fundamental UA, even as a founder. You don't want to spend your hours doing it, but you want to understand that part of the ecosystem and be able to communicate effectively with whatever stakeholder is eventually doing that for you. So prove it out with those two channels initially. They're the same. You can port learnings from one to the other, creatives, et cetera. If a company is either ready to scale or it's an older product that needs like a turnaround, that's like one of our partners for last year was Ludia. They reacquired their portfolio and had to do like a full UA turnaround, kind of starting from zero and rebuilding. In that case, a partner like Upptic can come in, do the UA, creative across all channels, provide all the analytics and insights. And in that case, working with not necessarily us or a resource like that as sort of a proof of concept of can this game scale, can this game turn around, and then decide from there. It doesn't mean you need to work with the agency long term, but if having a proven resource to kind of build the proof of concept and then decide, cool, where do I want to go from here? Do I want to raise around and build out an internal team? Do I want to keep working with partners? Do I want to do a smaller version of this? So that's what I would say. Just keep it small and simple. If you're starting from zero, if you're trying to get to the point of scaling, use an expert resource, but don't build out fully internally until you know you have something that can sustain profitability and sustain the burn of that larger team.
Sure.
Build on that, actually, I had a couple of cases where the smaller startup, one was gaming, one was not gaming, and they basically didn't know, should we hire somebody in-house, do UA ads and stuff. Like, honestly, I don't think it's worth it right now because you don't know how long it's gonna last. And if anything, it's maybe getting for UA operations, getting an agency who is already very experienced and who can do stuff. But also, if you want to have a larger control over content that gets out, maybe have a freelancer who can help you work fully with how creatives should look like. Let's say it's a founder story or product story or anything like that, and invest more time in that, because that can actually be quite cost effective if you do it that way. And that way you will see the proof of concept, whether or not, and then collect the information. Okay, actually, what is the consistent workflow that I need to hire somebody? And it actually, in that case, it helped us build out, let's say, a job description, a profile, who are they looking for? So definitely would not hire in-house straight away. Although I'm a marketing person, but I would not hire marketing straight away.
I agree. I would just add, be very careful with the vetting of the agency, and especially if it's like a younger product, like have that conversation. Like, is it someone that can give you bad news, or is it someone that's going to tell you to spend and spend and spend regardless of what's happening? So just check references of the agency, make sure it's someone who's philosophically aligned and will be willing to tell you if you need to kill the product, even if it's not in their best interest. So it's an extra step to take.
Sure, yeah. Leah, do you have a take on that?
So whenever you're the digital developer, you're asking me how to start.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I also got the same question that should we hire somebody or should we use agency? But whether you work with your agency or you hire somebody internally, what I told them that founder or that team, they should understand what it is. So it doesn't need to be complicated. I think what works best is simplicity. So they need to understand how it works. And so I think they should do something on one platform because they don't have massive budget, and then they should set to clear the message.
Yeah.
And then they should test. And then I think the one the more important thing is to run or the test is that the two important thing is to get interpretable data. And then, they have to get, they said a common understanding of this data, and then they have to be able to act on it fastly.
Right, right, okay.
Yeah, so disclaimer, this is not advertising, but it has a little bit of a product placement in it. So a little bit biased here, because I have done this previously many times. I have studios that just started advertising with rewarded networks. First of all, it doesn't have to be expensive. We have options, cheaper options. And then what you get out of that is certain installs that's not fraudulent, and a highly intended user base that is going to give you a lot of insights. First of all, if they like your app or not. Second of all, what the mechanics are. You can get all of this from every single media.
Yeah.
But then you have this highly intentional that wants to go through all of the events real fast, user base. And this is, I'm an account manager. Obviously, we don't really, comment on the mechanics of the title that we're advertising. But these deep conversations I have with my couple of my advertisers on how to actually improve the progression within their titles. And, it's not a big cohort from rewarded networks, but gives you a lot of accurate insights. So initial processes, initial growth, and operational-wise, it's not going to be that expensive because you don't need many people to do the campaigns, the creatives, and whatnot. It ends up helping you a lot in many different fields. So although I'm biased, obviously,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying like this is the best strategy to go with, but it's just another alternative strategy that started growing recently. And I've been consulting,
Yeah.
advertisers that just do rewarded or just start with rewarded, or if they're like already existing advertiser, they'll publish another title from the get-go, and they start with, because you get that install amount of course also on the store. I'm not saying it's the main reason why the conversion is going to happen, but it definitely helps.
Yeah. One thing I've observed a lot with the smaller studios that I work with, again, with stuff like this, is that because they're maybe trying to run a lot of, say, smaller micro experiments or like that sort of scale, right? That they are very, very prone to like over-interpreting the results that they see, or they're very prone to maybe being a bit emotional or emotionally guided by what they think their creative is doing or what their UA campaign is doing. How can they guard against that? Because they can't necessarily spend at the level, if you like, that a larger dev can to get truly statistically representative kind of results. They do have to kind of use their intuition a bit. But how do they avoid biasing themselves, essentially? Brice?
I would love, actually, if you give me the opportunity to come back to the previous question.
Yeah.
I would say, again, on the perspective of a founder, if you're building a game, if you're building a company, today, 2025, 2026, I would say from the beginning, you're going to have to be extremely methodical and understand that, are you hiring a UA, are you not? It's all about phases. And what do you do now when you don't even have a game? What do you do now when you're not in a place to do, you have a game, but not in a place to do UA? And it's phases, right? And something that we do for sure, and that I would suggest everybody does, it's start to get a community very early. Build a community of a couple of thousand people, tens of thousands of people, and see what they talk about, about your game, what resonates. Start to test, like theories on them. Either it's on your Discord, either it's like some small ads. Even if you just spend like 500, you hear something about, that resonates in the community. Try to do an ad.
Yeah.
See how it performs compared to something else. Even looking at what competitors are doing, and try, does that resonate actually with your audience or not? It's all about phases, but don't underestimate, I think, this, right? You're gonna build a game. We decided to do actually one game, right? We don't want to do multiple games and spread our focus. It's one game. So if you do one game, you're gonna have 1 or 2 years, maybe 3, of just building. It's 3 years where you can build your brand, build your community, learn before going to those guys and push your ads, right? And it's like a gold mine, and I see a lot of startups slipping on that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Saikala, what do you think?
I totally agree with you. And for whoever has luxury of time to do that, that's great. Because I think community and word of mouth, let's say, is the strongest type of marketing, and people who are engaged and they're going to play, they're going to give you feedback. And I agree that it is phases, because at the beginning when, let's say, you're building community and then at some point you need to start Facebook ads or whatever, or TikTok, you don't need an agency for that. You just can do it yourself. There's lots of free knowledge online. I mean, if you're short of time, go to GPT and just ask them to give you instructions. Anybody can do it. It's like really easy. But then going to the marketing mix, Actually, reward play, marketing mix exists for a reason. I would still start with something base, more like SRNs and things like that, and combination of community, because organics are very, very important. Organics are what's gonna take you to the next level, and that's something that you cannot buy with money. That's something that needs to be built from scratch. But then when selecting networks, I would not select reward play networks, I'm sorry, because looking at the data, literally the retention drop off really, really high straight after the reward window is finished. So therefore, I would never recommend to small developers to do that, because if they're making decisions based on, like, they're going to change the product, they're going to raise or not raise investment fund raise or whatever, and if that is in the mix, that's just going to make it high risk, give them high risk stats, and I don't think that's a good thing. They need to blend organics and something that is a little bit more stable.
No, I mean, yeah, I do agree with you, and I would say like the community building is super important, and that's one of the things that my company does.
Right.
And to keep that, and that retention is not going down that much. What we realize with some of the consultancy that we have given is because we have the raw eyes before and the installs before, and I understand the retention rates drop after the reward structure, but it also helps them to build up some numbers on their end, plus improve their product. Of course, you can do that with other things. You can do your testing, you can listen to your community, which I'm, by the way, one fan of as well. But we have seen it, in my experience at least, to help to a certain level. And I'm not saying that would be the only thing that will carry you to the future, but it's just a lever to pull if you're interested in it.
Yeah.
I think it's going back to phases you mentioned. In earlier phases, you shouldn't do that, but then once you go to like medium phases, because then when you have a mix, then you should have a mix of everything. And this is where reward play is going to have like very short payback window, very good ROAS in a short period of time, particular types of games it's going to work for. But at the very, very beginning, probably starting with community and building the base first.
But I'm more on his side, because this community building is not something like the free marketing, right? So it doesn't mean that they don't run UA just and gathering a user for free, because I think whether this the community building or the ad, I think all this small team or even the bigger team should start something with the users. So it's not about the ad platform. So I think even the bigger team with a massive budget, the team cannot. To clearly explain that who this title is for, or what kind of the player would care about their game, or how they can differentiate it from the other competitors. I think it's just a waste of your money. So I think the need to understand your user. So I think this is the community building thing, or the user feedback is more like that. To keep the users in. So I think UA can be an amplifier. So, but it's not magic or the only one way to get the user. So if the product cannot keep the user, then it's useless.
Okay, cool. Warren, do you have a?
Yeah, I guess going back to the original question, one of the pitfalls we most commonly see as far as like that emotional attachment to creatives or certain messaging, in mobile gaming we tend to be very data driven, almost to the point of a crutch, in the sense of the pitfall I see is teams are very quick to be like, all right, we have some data, this works, this doesn't work, do more of this. Don't do this. And I see it in both ways, being that teams will like do a couple of UGC creatives, it doesn't work, and then I talk to them like, oh yeah, we tested UGC, it doesn't work for our game. What did you test? These 3 ads. Like, okay, and you wrote off a whole segment of design based off of those 3. And similarly, there's a temptation to be like, okay, this is the overperforming of the first 5 things we tried, so do more of this or copy our competitors. Normally the gap and what people are not doing is just a lack of imagination. In most cases, the thing that needs to be done is just try something net new, increase the breadth of ideas. People usually don't work hard enough to explore breadth and find the breakouts, and pivot too quickly to, This is our data set. This is what works. Iterate off of that. And then that's when you see really fast creative burnout because you're just iterating off of things you've already saturated the market with rather than shipping net new ideas.
Right. Okay. So we only have a couple of minutes left. Amazingly, this panel has gone super fast, and it is fantastic, by the way. Thank you all so much. With one final question then. So obviously the panel title is David and Goliath, and in the story of David and Goliath, David famously fells the giant with a slingshot, right, a little stone. What is your recommendation to smaller developers? Like, what is their slingshot? What is the opportunity that they're like maybe not seeing, the thing that really could help them to sort of accelerate over and above where they currently are at the moment? Even if it's kind of pie in the sky, like what's the thing that you think you should do that more than anything else? To be successful throughout 2026 and beyond. Give it.
Yeah, so it's going to depend on the type of title. If it's going to be anything more than hyper casual, or maybe even casual, then I'll probably go with community building, which I'm a gamer myself, and I think it's very important.
Right.
Then again, I'll go back to if it's something less than casual, I'll probably go with my suggestion.
Right. Very cool. Warren, what's your slingshot?
Yeah, two things really quick. We work with a mix of like really small teams, individual founders, up to like big publicly traded companies. The small teams can always win by just moving faster. They can have an idea for a creative, for a new ad network, a new tactic. They can be testing it tomorrow. For these bigger companies, it can take them months, quarters to push through a new creative strategy, to get the paperwork done, to work with a new network. So there's so many ways small teams can move faster. A lot of our biggest wins have been working with these very small teams. And then just a low-hanging fruit. Our team Upptic is doing free UA audits, so 1-hour audits we're doing at this event. There's Ilya on our team, and there's Xander out there. Just flag one of us down. We can do a one-hour audit with you now. It's not a sales pitch. We'll like open up your data. We'll take a look. We spend about $8 million a month in UA. We're happy to tell you what we're seeing and what you think you could improve in a short span.
Ooh, very cool. Saikala, what's your slingshot?
Use free audits. People like free. I like free stuff, so I take that. I think for smaller companies, especially for smaller teams and startups, people underutilize qualitative research, speaking to their customers, speaking to their competitors' customers, and understanding what do people want. Because at the beginning, you do need that kind of thing. You do need that kind of thing when you get midway as well. But I think, as you said, we are so data-driven in gaming to the extent that it goes a bit extreme. We forget to talk to our customers, to our players, and see how do they actually feel about this. And then use just a playbook online. You don't need to work with anyone. You can start doing your regular Facebook ads and TikTok to begin with, to experiment. It's really, really important that founders learn what it is and what it is not. So that then when you're ready to work with the agency network, build your team, you're a lot more knowledgeable about the basics. And pretty much all of it is nitty-gritty, to be honest.
Brice, what's your slingshot?
Yeah, again, I want to say just make a great game, try to stay focused on freaking making a great game and taking you're going to be able to move faster on that. You're a small team of great creative, hopefully, and target a specific opportunity and just move as fast as we can toward it. The big companies, will take longer. It's going to be a more messy process for them, where you can go straight to it. Then, again, repeating my community piece, I would add to that, make sure that it adds to a brand. The community and everything that you do during the development adds to a brand, where you start to build equity for your studio or for your game that resonates with your audience. I'm a huge believer that there is consumer shifts in many generations, but specifically Gen Z and Gen Alpha, and we are in the most exciting industry for them in their life. Gaming is the most exciting things, surely more than school, and we have so much that we can propose to them that we are sleeping on.
Okay, and Leah, last word. What's your slingshot?
The one thing that I always empathize is, especially under this tough environment, on the UA or the other side, don't try to become everything for everyone. You guys should understand that you should be something indispensable for someone. So I think that's the most important thing. So it's related to make a great game.
Great. Okay. So we are completely out of time. So thank you very much, everybody. That was wonderful.